Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me on today's CoolCare webinar. This one will be looking at our recent updates to the system, as well as an open Q&A on there. So we can have two parts of this. First bit, we'll be going through recent changes and updates to the system to see what's new with CoolCare, what we've added to make operating your care home easier, more efficient, and more profitable on there to help out with anything you can think of. And then the second half, we'll be doing, once I've gone through all the updates and new changes, we'll be looking at a little Q&A where you can use Zoom to answer any question, sorry, to ask any questions to myself, and I'll be able to answer them and show it off on my demo system, hopefully on there. So you can use the Q&A option on Zoom. You should find it on there. You can pop a question in there, get them in there now, and then when we get to the Q&A section, I'll be able to answer anything as we're going through. But like I say, first one we'll be looking at is a few updates and changes to the system, some new stuff that you might not be aware of, or maybe, who knows, on there. On that. So, with that in mind, I'm going to swap over to my demo system where I've just got some stuff set up for demonstration purposes on there to show you everything. And we'll get things underway. As I'm going through the new stuff as well, if you do have questions on that as I'm going, feel free to ask as well on the Q&A, and I can answer any questions on the fly on whatever it might be. If I share my screen there, I should see CoolCare on there now. So, the first thing we're going to look at is to do with our HR on our staff files, specifically to do with training on there. A new thing added to CoolCare recently is the option to bulk upload training to CoolCare. You might not be aware of this because it is in a different place to where most things usually are. In order to be able to do this, you have to have access to CoolCare at group level. What that means is in the top right corner where it says the home name, if you have access to all the homes within your database and your group on there, you'll be able to access the system at group level, as it says at the top. And when you do that, if you go to the staff section on the left-hand side, we'll find a different option in there than usual, one that says training upload. Now, we kind of understand that obviously everyone may use different training systems outside of CoolCare to track training for your staff members, but to help integrate that with CoolCare, we've got this new feature here to help kind of get things unified and added onto CoolCare a little bit easier on there. Essentially, a CSV upload on there with a template available on this page. Similar to uploading your staff and residents on the system, if you did that when you first set up your CoolCare system, it'll look a little bit similar to that with a few different bits on there. So there's a template you can download from the page here to be able to see what format it should be in on there, but I'll show you a demo file I've got set up already. Where did I put it? There it is. So it'll look a little bit like this. So the template file download will have something like this on there. I'll have some preset stuff in there, some kind of examples to show you how it works, but it requires a few bits of information on there. The main thing that you're going to have to get out of CoolCare is this staff ID on the left-hand side. The way that works is, I'll just close that. It's not exactly it's not the where you might think it is. If I go to staff records, simple thing is, it's not the payroll number. You might think that's an ID, but it's actually not on there. Instead, what you need is from each staff member. If I click into a staff record on the system, excuse me, you'll find actually in your address bar on your browser, it'll say app.coolcare.uk/staff, and then they'll have a number. And that is the staff ID kept on the system. That's the best way you can find it on CoolCare at the moment. It's just using it. Go on the staff record and pick out that number from there. So staff ID 48 on mine relates to Amelia Watson on here. So you can use that, as I say, the staff ID when you're uploading the training on there. The rest is all pretty straightforward stuff. The qualification, i.e. what training they were doing on there. The date commenced when they started it. The date achieved when they completed that training, which might be the same day as I've got in case on mine here. The delivery method, which is a lookup saying, how they did the training, either online, in person, as you can see on there. And any notes on there extra as well. Now, only the first four columns are the mandatory ones, the ID, the qualification, and the dates. Delivery method and notes are optional. You don't have to add those in on there, as I believe the page will tell you if I go back to my training upload. Yep, you see there, delivery method and notes are optional fields, but it still requires all these column headers on here to make sure it can recognize the file. So with that in mind, with my example on here, I'm going to take it and upload it. I don't have to save it, I'm not changing anything. So if I choose a file from my computer, using the option there, similar to any other uploads to CoolCare you may have done previously, you can find it on there. So if I find this one here and open, it will actually give you a preview first before you upload it of the what we're putting in here, the staff ID, qualification, essentially the details in the thing on there. And then we can upload this onto the system. And here is where it gets special. So you can see there it's successfully managed to upload one of the trading records, but one of them has errored. It says there it's failed. And if we look at it, we can see why. It will give you this little list here. And what it does is it allows you to change the information on here to then be able to properly retry it and upload it. So in my case, it was a delivery method that was the problem. If we have a look why, it's because in the file I had it, the option was in person, but I don't have that on my system. I've got face-to-face or online. In person is face-to-face on my system here. So I can correct that in there, retry the errored file, and give it a preview again just to check it's okay, and then upload that. And just like that, it's done on there. So it's as simple as that to be able to do it on there. And that means, say, any errored records you got, you don't have to go back in, change the file, and try it all again. You can just do it on the fly there, update it, or if there's anything you don't want to use, you can actually remove them from there and not upload them as well. But that is the training upload, as you can see. And that will update all our staff records accordingly. So if I actually go to Amelia now, who we were just looking at, we did all the uploads for, onto the training section, we should find in the first aid awareness, where was it? There it is, done yesterday. As you can see there, the date's achieved. Click into it, we can see all the details there, date commenced, achieved, delivery method, and the notes on there. And that's, yeah, that is how that works. Like I say, if access to it group level, on there you should be able to get onto it. Oh, there's a question saying that they haven't got this option. I believe it might be tied to your permissions as well. You may need to check if you have the right permissions on CoolCare to be able to access this page from that. So if you're still struggling to access it, you can get in touch with our support team and they can help you out, get you the right access. Well, tell you what access you'd need to be able to get onto it on your CoolCare system. So that is our first new change, the trading upload there. That's the biggest thing I've got to show you for today, but we do have some smaller changes and extra stuff on there as well. Some new bits on different records. So we're going to start. We're going to go to our home real quickly on there to see things a bit easier. A few kind of extra fields and chaining on there. Oh, a good question someone's asked on that training as well is, does it appear on a timesheet? It would not. Because it's not got any hours on there, it's literally just adding the training to the staff records like you would on a staff record. Go in and just insert it manually. That would also just put the training on the record and not put it on the timesheets on there. So it won't do anything like hours on timesheets. It's literally just adding the training to say they've done it on the record. If you need hours on the timesheet, you'd still have to go through the calendar to add that training onto the system. This is more for like bulk uploads, to say like existing training that staff members already done, or if you use a different training system, you can then transfer that information into CoolCare. That's no, like I say, a few extra fields added to staff records in different places for information you might need for them. For example, in our HR section under the UK eligibility, also do with staff members' eligibility to work within the UK, we have a new field here regarding share code expiry. So this allows you to log and monitor the expiry dates for staff share codes. On there, you just select the dates, and then, or you can type it in, of course, and that will be shared on there and also kept updated. And that will also appear on the full staff details report on there. A nice simple field on there for that one. One that I actually can't show you on my system right now is to do with any homes based in Scotland. There'll be a couple of new fields you'll find on this page here under the employment details, which is SSSC numbers and expiry dates in there. You can find those on this page. If the home is set to be in Scotland, actually, I should be able to do that on my system here if I just double check. If I remember where it's done, bear with me one moment. So, still on there. Take that. So now if I go to a staff member, bear with me, let me double check that. There it is. Now I've found it. There we go. The triple SC number and expiry date's in there for any homes based in Scotland. You can see that's in there and fill that information in for them as well. Like I said, if your home is based in Scotland, it should be on there automatically. I just needed to slightly tweak my system for it to show up. Let's just get things sorted out. And one small additional change as well, actually swapping over to the resident side of things, is under your invoices. On the invoices page in CoolCare, you may be aware you can insert to add in manual invoices on here. You can fill out the details of any residents and accounts you're looking for. One new thing you can do on here is actually now search it by admission date. So if you start popping a date on there, it should help me find it out. Oh, no, sorry, it's not the actual. It's if I start typing in the box and find if I can remember any resident's name, it will have their admission date in there. That's so if you've got certain residents with similar names, or if you had to say of returning residents in there, you can actually see there, make sure it's done for the right stay for them, for example. And that's just pops the admission dates and even discharge dates for any discharge residents as well. So it helps you to identify the correct record, select the right invoice. To say if the resident is a readmission, they have multiple records for the same name. Makes things a little bit easier on there. Also, while we're in the invoices on here, additional change was made to the printing of invoices on this page. So when you go to print invoices from CoolCare, I'm going to just print some selected ones on here. We now have a new option of how it orders the list when it prints them out. Initially, it just had no ordering. I think it did it by the resident's name, if I remember correctly, on mine here. But now you can do it by invoice number, so the actual invoice number itself in either ascending or descending order on there. So I'll do mine in descending, and if I continue to print, it will then, like before, give you that printed invoice to export, well, print off from CoolCare, save to computer, that PDF version that you can get out the system there. Just makes it a bit more orderly when you're printing them out, essentially, so you can see it a bit easier. So you can see how mine's going from those recent one and descending order on there. And just show the difference if I were to then print with no ordering. Give that a moment. Off separately. So yeah, just a slightly different way of printing them out to make it a bit easier when you're going to use a print option on there. So that's on there. And the last main thing to show you is an option regarding your lookups. So we go into my lookups on the menu in the top right corner on here. Got a couple of new options. Well, one new option relating to specifically the department lookup. So those familiar with lookups might see the new option right away, and that is the option to archive a department. What that means is in CoolCare with the lookups, typically you can't easily delete something once it's kind of in use on the system. So with this one specifically, it allows you to archive this a specific department. If there's one you've got like a duplicate that's not in use in here, but it might have been used somewhere in the past, so you can't just fully delete it. Instead, we can archive them instead. For example, I've got these duplicate care ones, which I can't delete if I try it. I believe it should say it's probably in use somewhere. Yep. But I can still archive it instead. That way, it's not going to be, accidentally used anywhere else in the future. But it tells you there, you shouldn't do this. Just be aware this is permanent that you're doing. You can't then, get them back if you have archived them. And you want to check your positions to make sure there's none of them using that in there. So I can archive a couple of mine to get rid of them and have some just archive positions. Make my list of departments here a little bit more. What's the word I'm looking for? Tidy is the word there. And that way it makes sure that when you are using any, that's as well. If you do want to check if you've got any positions belonging to archive departments, you can find those in the group position section on here, where you can see the department in the drop-down list there, and I've got one here under this care one, which is now archived, but I can change it back to a proper one to use the right one on there. So yes, when you do archive your departments, make sure you check your positions there to make sure they're still using the right departments in their place. So yeah, specifically that option is only for the departments for now. Of course, as we take feedback on the system and future updates happen, we may have more options on there, but for now, that's the only one that you can do that with. That's so. Uh, those are kind of the main big changes that have happened recently on CoolCare, kind of small incremental things in there in different places. The big one really was that training upload, which I say will be useful for anyone using CoolCare for the first time, or you've got a separate training system, but you want to use CoolCare as well. You can easily now get them from the training system into CoolCare from that. Alongside those, of course, there are just some small bug fixes in different places, as we always find these little things that crop up every now and again. We're able to fix them as easily as they're found. So, uh, but like I say, for changes to the system, for new stuff, that would be all for that's recently on here, which means I can kind of go over to the second part of today's webinar, which is an open Q&A. So essentially, I can open up the floor to any questions people might have on any part of the system, not just the stuff we've been looking at for updates-wise, but anything you're not sure of on CoolCare. If you've got questions on how to use the system on different things, so feel free to ask away. I'll give everyone a couple of minutes to think of any questions they may have. The only thing I'll say is this is if it's something specific to your system, like a specific bit of data or something that would require you looking at your data to how to properly diagnose, I won't really be able to help there because obviously you can't really show off your data on a webinar here. So anything like that, you may want to go take to our support team instead. Which, if you didn't know on CoolCare, you can find them in the bottom left corner, quick little chat bubble, and you can ask them questions, and they'd be able to look at your system specifically, with your permission, of course, and help you out with any specific issues you've got. Like I say, any questions you might have is more on how to do stuff on CoolCare. That's what I can help you out with. So I'll give everyone a few minutes to think of anything, and ask away. Someone has had a question. CoolCare sliders out too quickly. Can this be adjusted? I'm afraid not. CoolCare's automatic sign out is set to 15 minutes, if I remember right off the top of my head. Although sometimes it might feel a bit quicker than that. It is that long. And typically, in most places, it will give you a warning when it's going to log you out. So you know if you need to save any work or anything like on that, it will tell you the warning. But in the actual timeouts cannot be adjusted itself. It's set for at a system level for security reasons, so can't be adjusted on an individual level, I'm afraid, with that. Uh, Someone else asking a question there. How would you suggest dealing with daycare residents within CoolCare? I had a room that was daycare, but now the rooms of the home are inflated. Ooh. So essentially, you need something that's obviously you can put the residents into without affecting, like you say, your occupancy numbers on there. This is actually where one thing would come in useful if I go to the home setup. One thing you can do with your rooms in CoolCare is make them inactive. On your room list here, you can add in rooms and you can deactivate them, which essentially means they wouldn't count towards your occupancy. You can still put residents in them, but they wouldn't count towards any occupancy figures or reporting like that. So just to show you, I've got a few inactive rooms on my system, I believe, where it's just numbered rooms on there. You could easily use those for daycare, where if I go to a residence or into my resident records, I can add in a new record, and I would be able to put them into one of those inactive rooms. You can see they appear on the list just like anything else. And that means then when I put them into that room, the resident will be in there and I can do everything I normally would with any other resident record in the system, but it wouldn't affect my occupancy in the room list in that side of things. So yes, I would try using inactive rooms for daycare residents. That way, they're not going to affect your occupancy figures and look off, skew things the wrong way from that. Next question from someone. We have noticed when setting up a new resident contract that it selects the nominal code. We used to have to go into override and set up the correct nominal. Has this been changed? The way the nominal codes work on the residence contracts, on resident fee contracts, is it is based on the residence care type. This one here, the record. And this is a lookup that you can customize within your system on each home. You can find that in the care home section under the home setup. And you'll have a couple of lookups in there. One for care types and one for nominal codes. The nominal codes, where you obviously set up the nominal codes themselves that you'd want to use. And then the care types, you can set those up for different types of care, and they can have a set nominal code associated with them. So, and then when it creates any fee contracts for the residents that have that specific care type, it will just use that as a nominal code by default. As far as I'm aware, nothing's changed on that with it. So maybe something to check on your system, and if it's still not quite showing properly, again, that could be a question for the support team to see what's happened there on that. Next question. Can payroll periods be locked so that changes can't be made once the hours have been confirmed? They absolutely can. On your timesheet in the staff section, you can lock this. So you can lock the timesheet down to make sure no one's, like you say, changing hours when they shouldn't be after payroll's been ran or at whatever point you'd like. As long as you have the access, you'll see the padlock icon on the top right corner. If you click that, you can then lock the timesheets up to a specific date. So currently mine's locked up until the end of November. If I say, well, we've done, December's payroll now, I can lock that up until the end of December, for whatever the end of that payroll period might be. I'm just going to do it for the end of December there. And if you want to, if you've got the option enabled, you can even authorize all the shifts on the timesheet within those dates as well. But the main thing is, once I update that, if I then go back to December on my timesheet here, we can see all of the boxes, all the days now have a little padlock icon next to them. And if I click on any shifts on those days, the actual hours themselves are all grayed out and cannot be edited. So you can't change those in there. So yes, you can lock down the timesheets to make sure no one's messing with hours once payroll's been run, or obviously whenever you'd like, you can do it through there. We've got a few questions coming through now. Next one is regarding holidays. When we book a holiday, this will remove the staff member from their shift, but it doesn't take them off other homes' rotas. Is there a way so it does both? As far as I'm aware, when you save a holiday on the calendar here, it should remove the staff member from any shifts that are on the rota. If I click on it, just to go through it and save, again, it will ask you, do you want to remove the staff member for this holiday date from the rota? I believe that should include any pulse shifts they're on as well, so any other homes they might work in. It all depends on, I guess, I'll say making sure they're on the rota and the hours have been authorized. As far as I'm aware, that's how it should work. If it's not working that way, again, that may be something for our support teams to check with you to see why that's not happening. But as far as I'm aware, like I say, whether it's on their main home or any other home in the company, they should be removed from any shifts where they are put on a holiday. And it will look obviously on the rota a bit like that, just a white shift to say unassigned or holiday in this case on there. Next one is regarding staff inquiries, sorry, resident inquiries. If staff have issues when converting an inquiry to a resident, it allows you to save them without admitting. Then they can't find inquiry as the default doesn't show admitted. That's right. So with inquiries in CoolCare, whenever you go to complete the admission task on these, when you pop in at that date completed, it will pop up and say save and admit. That is the button they should press whenever they finish that, because that will then take them to be able to add in the new admission as a resident onto CoolCare. If they don't, if they just save that without admitting, as the question says, the inquiry will be kind of completed on here. The occupancy management will then disappear. The inquiries will disappear from the list there from that. To find that inquiry again, because like I say, it doesn't show up by default, you can use the filter on this page. Use your inquiry status there to filter that list and find any admitted on there. So you can still find admitted inquiries once they've been admitted. You just have to change your filter it ever so slightly, and you can filter it down any further. So looking at the admission date or the inquiry name, whatever information you have. If I do it by today's admission date, which I just popped in for that one, we should find the inquiry in there. At that point, they can go back into it and go back into the admission task. And essentially, there you can see the option to save and admit is still there available. So they can always go back into that and resave and admit it essentially on there. So that's that. Next question. Is there a way to get a list of everyone in the home for fire emergencies? And that's one specifically. Uh, there would be a couple of reports you can use. I guess you can get one out for residents nice and easily through your resident reports. There is one that is called fire list on there, which does exactly what it tells you. It is a fire list for all residents currently in the home and separating out any absent ones. For staff, it's not that we don't have just a set report for it. To see your staff members who would be in the building, the actually best option would probably be to go via your dashboard with this widget here, Staff on Shift, telling me which staff members are currently clocked in on CoolCare. That will tell you who's in the building based on who's clocked in with that. And obviously, with CoolCare, you can get it up on your mobile, so you can easily load that up on a phone and see that list from there directly on a mobile or tablet, whatever you're able to grab. Like I say, in the case of emergency, actually. So set report for residents. Unfortunately, not a set report for staff, but there is that widget there that would probably be the best way to see it on there. Next one, following on regarding pay periods. Doesn't work. So sick. Regarding I guess the timesheet locking with this. So yes, there was kind of one thing that I can have some trouble if you do be locking a timesheet, which is long-term absences specifically. So, for example, I actually had one on mine which went up to the end of the year with that. So actually, just to show you to unlock my timesheet, I'm going to send it back to the end of November. On there, go into my calendar. One thing to be aware of with long-term absences is you won't be able to save a absence if the timesheet is locked for any part of it. So in this case, this is actually, I think, maternity leave for most of 2025. I had it set up. So if I try to save that, not going to take off the rotor, but there, I cannot update that absence because of the locked timesheet record. So essentially, I would have to actually unlock the timesheet all the way back to the start date of that to be able to then properly save and update that absence on there. So that's the only thing that might interfere with the locking of the timesheet to be aware of. Fortunately, there's not really a way around that because of just the way the timesheet and the calendar works. So you'd have to temporarily unlock the timesheet, change the absence on there if you need to update it, and then relock the timesheet again. Luckily, it is nice and simple to do that. You can just roll back the date and change that at any time to update that timesheet lock date on there. And again, only specific people have the option to do that as well. It's based on your permission to run payroll. So if you have access to the payroll page on CoolCare, you can lock and unlock the timesheets, but no one else in your home would be able to. They don't have that access. Next one regarding the staff portal. On the staff portal websites, staff will be able to register on one device. That is incorrect. Staff should be able to log into the staff portal on any device they use. They just make sure to go to the right website and use the login details they've registered with. They can set up on any device they've got. Similar with you logging into CoolCare, you can use it on multiple computers. Same with the staff, they can easily register on any device. Just make sure they're using the right URL, which you can find from CoolCare if you generate the portal poster. They'll have the link to the URL on there. If staff ever need reminding of that, so they can get that on there. Then they wouldn't need to register again. They would literally just use the login details they've already set up, and they can then get it set up from there. If they do forget the login details anytime and do need to re-register, you can always reset their staff portal login through the staff record itself. Just going into their employment details under HR and reset the portal password in there. So yeah, staff members can use the portal on any device they use, and they can use it on multiple devices. They just need to remember their login details in order to do so. next question, going back to the inquiries. Regarding the question, what is the point of save button if you only need to save and omit? Well, the save button is there because it was originally used essentially when you first create the inquiry on the admission task. So if you need to update the admission without, what do we call it? Update the admission task without actually having to, without saving and admitting. If I find that one again on there, you can do stuff to change the admission task without, without actually doing the admission itself. You can change the plan date. Obviously, I can't on this one because it's now completed, but you can rearrange the plan date of the admission, change who it's assigned to, add any comments and stuff on there, and save it without admitting on there. So that's why that save button is still there alongside the save and admit on there. So that's essentially why that's been done. And then one here. When an employee goes from permanent to bank, the holiday accrued to the point of change is not carried forward into the previous hours accrued. Holiday goes to zero and accrues as they were banked in person. That is correct. Works well for a change of hours, but not permanent to bank. If the staff member does need to carry over the holiday, then it's something you'll be able to do yourself, essentially. Before you make the change, you can check the staff member's holiday entitlement either through the staff record, going into here, into the holidays page, seeing what they've accrued so far using the accrued to dates or whatever you'd like on there, the accrued remaining with that. And then once you make that change and change it over to whichever way it would go, you can then put in that accrued holiday into the holiday brought forward with that. So it's just a manual thing you would have to do instead, rather than one that carries over automatically, because essentially with some companies we're aware, they don't always want to carry over holiday. They might just pay it out to them and then start over with the bank contract and go from that. So if you want to carry it over, make a note of it and then put it into that holiday brought forward once you have actually changed over the into bank from that. Right. And the questions have slowed down for a moment. So I'll give everyone else another minute, or a few minutes, I should say, to think of any other questions you might have. If you do, feel free to have a think and type it up, of course. But if there's no other questions, we'll give it, say, a couple of minutes, and then we might wrap up in a moment if everyone is all questioned out. All right. Something tells me that might be all the questions everyone has for today. Of course, if you need extra help on CoolCare, there are plenty of places you can get assistance on the system with us. Firstly, if you click in the top right corner, you can find our user guides on the page there. All sorts of user guides on all parts of the system that you might want to know about in CoolCare, you can find on here. Plenty of written guides that we always keep up to date with any changes and updates to the system, as well as some video guides on our webinars. Previously, we've done masterclasses and all that kind of thing. There you can find. So anything you want additional help with, the guides is a good first place to look. Anything more specific or anything on your system that you're not quite sure on, you can always get in touch with our support team, as I mentioned previously. You've got a little chat bubble in the bottom left. You can fill your details in there and have a live chat with our support team. They can help you out there and then right away. Alternatively, we do have a couple extra ways you can get in touch with support as well. Just give me one moment. There we are. You can also contact support on the phone. You want to ring them up. You can call them 0113 385 3853 and they can assist you through the phone as well. Or you can email them support@coolcare.co.uk with any queries you might have as well. That's for any of the queries regarding your account on CoolCare subscription, you can get in touch with your customer success manager at customer.success@coolcare.co.uk as well. And one final question that someone just sent to, the recording of this session will be made available to you guys. We'll be able to send it out to you all via email. It'll be early next week. I would imagine that you'd receive it. And it'll also be available actually through our guides page once it's uploaded on there as well. So keep an eye on that. But yes, we'll be sending out the recording to everyone that has come to the session. And with that in mind, thank you all for joining me for today. Hope it's been informative and useful for you and got some questions answers for everybody. And yeah, all I have to say is thank you for joining. Have a nice weekend, and I do hope to see you again soon. We're doing another webinar next week on Wednesday, looking at our biometric clocking system, if you're curious about that. And these Q&A update sessions are done every 4 weeks as well. So you'll be able to see another one coming up in February. So, thank you all for joining me, and yes, do have a nice weekend.